Welcome to BK Academy of Chess. This is Black Knight. We've learned the Lucena, which was winning for white. Now it's time to learn the Philidor, which black uses to obtain a draw. And how does black play in this position? The correct answer is rook to a6, because what black wants to do is to control the 6th rank to prevent the king from advancing, and he waits for the pawn to advance. Now if the white plays some rook maneuvers, black just maintains control of the 6th rank, right? Now you might be saying, Black Knight, what if white checks the king? Then I would ask you, how should black play? He simply steps up in front of the pawn, and if the rook checks again, he steps back, maintaining his king in front of the pawn. Now when the pawn pushes, how should black play? He brings the king to the back rank to harass the king with checks, because now that the pawn is on e6, the king has nowhere to hide. It cannot go in front of the pawn, and he cannot advance the pawn because black will continue checking the king. And if the king steps to the side, black just attacks the pawn, and it's just that easy. But you must remember to cut off the king from entering onto the 6th rank. This defense can also be applied to the 5th rank as well. Okay, now the king has made it onto the 6th rank. So how should black play? In this case, the best move is to attack the pawn from behind, and we'll review that later. I would like to take a look at this. If the rook checks the king, how should white play? He simply moves in front of the pawn to hide his king from checks, and he threatens mate. You see? So if black removes the king from in front of the king, right? White checks the king, and look what we have here. See if you recognize this position that's forming, right? He moves the rook back to protect the pawn, moves the king up, and now we have the Lucena position. That's what I wanted to show you here. Now, one more thing. Now I'd like to take a look at this last position here. And I have to give a plug for chess.com, because I get this thing that I'm getting ready to show you from Daniel Wrench from his videos on rook endings, which is phenomenal. He has like a 10-part series. It makes it worth the cost of the Diamond membership alone. And they have hundreds of other videos. But let me get into this. Okay, it's black to move. How should black play? Now, if you say rook to a6, then I would say correct, because the Philidor works when the pawn is on any file, right? However, when the pawn is on the 2 outside files, either G or H or A and B, black can play the passive Philidor, right? Because, like we were looking at, what white needs to do is to get the rook to the other side, but he can't because he doesn't have enough room. Now I like this position as black's best defense when the pawn is on the B and G file, because if white tries too hard to win the position, right, and he pushes his pawn, getting ready to place the rook on the H8 file, right, to promote the pawn, how should black play? Exactly. He checks the king, wins the rook, wins the pawn, and then wins the game. And that's it for the Philidor. Thanks for tuning in to BK Academy.